There's no doubt that Home Alone is a classic Christmas film, but why has it endured for over 30 years? Stay tuned to This, That, and Theology and find out. Hi, you're watching This, That, and Theology, equipping you to see your worldview in the world around you. I recently got to watch Home Alone with my 13-year-old son. This was his first time seeing it, and when you see it for the first time with one of your kids, it gives you a whole new perspective. And so you have to ask the question, why is this film one of the classic and iconic Christmas movies of the modern era? What is it about Kevin McAllister's story that makes us feel good about Christmas? And Home Alone is one of those movies that really couldn't happen today. In fact, it really couldn't happen outside of the early 1990s where the film is set. Home Alone follows the story of Kevin McAllister, the 8-year-old youngest son of the McAllister family. Kevin McAllister's family is going to leave their Chicago home and go to Paris for Christmas. Not just Kevin McAllister's family, but also his cousins, his aunt and uncle going to visit one of their relatives who has recently been transferred to Paris. This exciting trip means that the house is absolutely packed with people. Kids from 3 different families, 2 different sets of parents, 11 children, 15 people in a house. And I don't care how big your house is, 15 people is a lot of people. In the first few minutes of the film, we see that family going through all sorts of chaos. And Kevin McAllister, being one of the youngest one, feels pushed around and left out. Nobody wants to be around him. Nobody wants to answer his questions. And he is just feeling completely overlooked. In addition to the family storm that's going on inside the house, that night a ferocious storm knocks out the power, which means the next morning the McAllister family, instead of getting up early so they can make it to the airport on time, wakes up with only 45 minutes before their flight takes off. Again, something you wouldn't see here in 2023. In the rush, the entire family gets out the door. They do a head count. Everybody makes it out. Unfortunately, one of those heads being counted was the neighbor kid, and Kevin McAllister is left all alone. Now, just before he had been sent up to the attic all on his own, he has a bit of a fight with his mother, where he tells her, "I wish I was alone. I wish I didn't have a family. I'm always being pushed around. Nobody likes me. I wish you all would just disappear and I'd never see you again." Well, when Kevin wakes up and comes downstairs, he finds the home empty. The entire McAllister clan had just barely made their flight to Paris, and so they didn't even realize that Kevin wasn't there until about halfway through the flight. It doesn't take long before the novelty of being on his own and unsupervised wears off, and Kevin McAllister starts trying to behave like an adult, going to the grocery store, buying responsible things like milk, eggs, and frozen macaroni and cheese dinners, and a toothbrush, while his family in Paris is desperately trying to find their way back home in the middle of a very busy travel season. All the while, 2 thieves are roaming through the neighborhood, their eyes and their minds set on robbing the McAllister home. In one of the most memorable sequences in the film, Kevin McAllister uses all the things he has around the house to fight off the bandits, ultimately ending in their arrest and his freedom, still hoping for his parents to come back. Kevin's mom is able to make it back on Christmas morning, and so when Kevin comes down, he finds out that his new Christmas wish has been granted and his family has returned home. As the film ends, the happy, joyous moment isn't that the bandits had been staved off by Kevin's crafty use of household appliances, but rather that the family is now reunited again for Christmas morning. While the most memorable part of the film is probably the defense of the McAllister home and the 8-year-old Kevin McAllister's craftiness, it's not really the focus of the majority of the film. That section, including the prep and execution, only takes about 15 minutes in a movie that's almost 2 hours long. Throughout the film, we see a problem and an answer that happens not once but twice, not just with the McAllister family, but with their neighbors. In the beginning of the film, the house is full of chaos, with 15 people all getting ready to travel internationally, not enough beds for all the kids. There's a lot of chaos, and if you've ever been in a large family or have been around a group with a lot of kids, very often there's a couple of kids, especially the younger ones, who just tend to get underfoot. Tempers run hot, and in all of that chaos, both his siblings and Kevin himself wishes that his family could just disappear. He wants to be on his own. And that loss of family that he experiences there shapes everything that happens. The moment that Kevin wakes up and finds the house to himself is about 17 minutes into the film. And for about 8 minutes, he enjoys being unsupervised, eating whatever he wants, jumping up and down on his parents' bed, wearing shoes, watching R-rated movies, doing things that he knows his parents would never ask. This lasts about 8 minutes, and then he starts realizing he really does miss his family. About the same time, his parents, who for a moment were relaxing and enjoying the trip to Paris, realize that they've forgotten Kevin, and their entire plan has been put into turmoil. Now the most important thing is to get back, to come home to their son Kevin. From that moment in the film on, both hearts of the family have the same goal. Kevin is trying desperately to deal with the loss of his family, and his family is desperately trying to be reunited. The point when the film ends and they are reunited is the highlight of the film. That is the answer to the problem, the crisis that's presented right there at 17 minutes into the film. In addition, we see that same message reiterated through the McAllister's neighbor. Christmas Eve, right before he defends his house, Kevin goes to church, and he has a conversation with his older neighbor next door. Through that conversation, we realize that his neighbor is experiencing a similar loss of family, that he hasn't been around his family because of a similar kind of spat that he had with his son. In this moment, Kevin looks at him and says, "Why don't you at least call? Why aren't you making that effort to come back together as family?" Kevin has realized through the previous days that he misses his family and that he would do anything to bring them back. And if all it would take is a phone call, why aren't you doing that? Both his neighbor and the McAllisters end the film together, and that's the highlight of the film. That's the part that makes us go, yes! Because the broken relationship between Kevin and his parents, between his neighbor and his son and granddaughter, has been restored. The family is now back together. Like Kevin, all of us at one time or another may have wished that our family just disappears. We might have moments where we think how life would be different if whoever was bothering us at that moment just wasn't around. Life would be without the chaos and mess that relationships bring. That's part of what family is. The message of Home Alone is no matter what happens, family is worth fighting for. Despite the chaos, the tension, the fighting, family is important enough that we should do anything that we can to make sure our family is restored. Particularly at the holidays, we're reminded of how important it is to be around family and loved ones. It's a recurring theme through many films. And even if this Christmas you are home alone, I encourage you to make a phone call, send an email, send a text, do a FaceTime conversation with your loved ones. Make the call and wish your loved ones a very Merry Christmas. Now, the reason we waited so long to show this film to our son is that we understand that the events that are happening in this film are actually quite dangerous and could really hurt someone. There's another video out there on YouTube that counts the number of times that Harry and Marv, the two thieves in this film, would have actually died because of what Kevin has done. So you want to make sure your kids understand that they really shouldn't be doing anything that they see Kevin doing, even though he's working to defend his own home. Home Alone is one of those movies that becomes a tradition for many families, and if it is for you, I hope the next time you watch it, you think about the messages that may be happening right underneath the surface. And you can be sure that here at This, That, and Theology, we'll talk about those hidden messages in all of your favorite films. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you next time right here on This, That, and Theology.
From John Hughes.
You know, I got a feeling this is going to be your best Christmas ever.
A family comedy without the family. Home Alone.
Are you here all alone?
I'm 8 years old. You think I'd be here alone? I don't think so.